Hello, in this video we're going to look at part 4 of the reading and use of English paper in the Cambridge First for Schools exam. Now the use of English is quite tricky. A lot of people certainly think so. And the keyword transformation task is probably the trickiest of all to get right. It's made especially tricky by the fact that each one is worth 2 points. So it's really important that you try your best in this section and that you think carefully about your answers. So let's think about what we have to do. According to the instructions, you have to use between 2 and 5 words, and this includes the word that you're given. So you only have to add at the most 4 more words. Now remember that articles like a, an and the count as a word. And remember as well that contractions count as 2 words. So when you're writing your answers, write clearly in capital letters. There's nothing worse than having the right answer but losing the point because the computer or the examiner couldn't read what you'd written. So let's come back to this idea of there being 2 points for each of the questions, because this kind of gives us a clue as to what we have to do. For every sentence, there are going to probably be 2 changes. For example, we might have a change from the active voice, I eat cake, for example, to the passive voice, the cake is eaten. That would be one change, and maybe we need to go from eat to a phrasal verb, like bitten into, something like that. So we'll have those sort of changes, phrasal verbs to single verbs, direct speech with speech marks to reported speech. These sort of things will be the changes we need to look for. One thing that some of my students find useful to do is to isolate the part of the sentence that actually needs to be changed. If you follow the link in the description below, you'll be able to find the PDF that we've been using in these videos. If you turn to page 23, you'll find the text that we're looking at. In the example, prizes are given out when the school year finishes. And then we have prize giving, end of each school year. So we see that we need to change some of the language, but what we can do is to cross out the words in the first sentence that appear in the second one. That way we isolate the language we want. So I'll tell you more about that after you've had time to try the task. So we'll go through these answers together when you come back to the video in a few minutes. Okay. So let's have a look at the answers together. Now remember, there are going to be many possible answers for most of these sentences. English is a very flexible language, and it's rare for there to be only one possible answer. There are 2 points available for each of these questions, 2 changes, but that also means that if you get half of the sentence correct, either side of the line as it appears in the answer sheet, then you'll get a point. So it's always worth trying. If you can see one of the changes but not the other, make that change and write it. You might still get a point. And 1 point is much, much better than 0. So for number 25, the key word is long. And we could say, it took a long time to do my homework last night. That's only one of the possible answers, and what I'd like you to do now is also to look at the answer sheet which follows this task. If it's a few pages away in the PDF, you can see the other answers, and that way if your answer is not something I mentioned but it's in the PDF, it means you've still got it right. So what are the changes? Well, in the first sentence, I spent ages doing my homework. So last night we can cross out. Doing my homework changes to do my homework, but that change is given. So we need to change I spent to it took, and then a time reference. Ages, using long, would be a long time. So there are two changes. For number 26, we need the word may. It's possible that Maria forgot it was your birthday. We can cross it was your birthday out for both, so we need it's possible that Maria forgot. Using may, we can take may into the past by making it perfect. Maria may have, and then she forgot changes to the third form, forgotten. That's it. Those are our two changes. If you wrote Maria may have forgotten that it was your birthday, that's acceptable as well. We don't need that because in this sentence the relative pronoun is not required. Likewise, if instead of saying forgotten you used remembered, you could say Maria may not have remembered it was your birthday. So number 27, we need the key word losing. So Danny hasn't got over the important tennis match. So straight away we can see the first change. Danny is very disappointed. Danny hasn't got over we want to change the verb, the adjective rather. The adjective goes to the noun, disappointed becomes disappointment. And we know from the way that disappointment works, it's the disappointment of something. He lost, so the disappointment of losing. Two changes, we have our answer. Now the answer for 28 is, well, not complicated, but there are many options. So again, look at the answer sheet to see if yours is correct. But after Carol said she, and we've got mind, we want something that means it's not a problem. If something's not a problem, you don't mind. Carol said she did not mind, and then we need a noun. So if we have the lesson started, we change started to the noun, so starting. This is the gerund form of the verb to give us the noun. But other options are possible. Instead of starting, you have the same meaning from beginning or having. But even if you see all these different possibilities, just choose one and stick with it in the paper. So Carol said she did not mind starting her guitar lesson. Okay, in number 29, we see the key word is spite. So immediately we should think of the expression in spite of. And in spite of is followed by the gerund. So we have, even though Luca took the early bus, so took is our verb, change it to the infinitive take, use the gerund taking. We have Luca was late for school in spite of taking the early bus. But for the same meaning, we could use catching or getting the early bus. Any of these will be okay. And finally, again, complicated set of answers, but 30, the word we want is point. When we see point and it's negative, there is no point doing something. It's in the past, Joanna decided. So Joanna decided that there was no point using an out-of-date website. So look closely at the answer key so that you can see the other possibilities that are available to you. But that's the idea. You have these two changes. In some ways, it's a little bit like the word formation task in part 3 of the paper, where you're given, for example, a verb and you have to make the noun. It's the same kind of skills that go into this, but it's a bit bigger. You need to think about how the words fit to make the whole sentence. Think of the bigger expressions. So things like crossing out language that's the same can help to focus your attention. Think about the two changes that you have to make, and think about how we use these set expressions like in spite of to carry the meaning of the sentence. Well, that's it now for the use of English part of the Cambridge First for Schools exam. In the next video, we're going to turn our attention to the reading part of the Reading and Use of English paper with the multiple choice task. Until that time, thank you.